we got another coach we're going to bring on. Demetrius is a O-line coach right now. We got a really good coach coming on with us as well. We got Coach Tony Franklin going to join the show. I'm going to bring him on right now. Hey, Coach.
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
Hey, how you doing today, Coach? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're doing fabulous. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on with us today. We had another awesome week of college football, and we wanted to get you on here and get some of your thoughts, especially about the college football season this year and what you think of what's gone down. I mean, you know a lot about the coaching world, and me and James have both been blown away by some of the coaching jobs that have been done, especially over at TCU and Coach Dykes. Coach Dykes from your experiences, and I just want to get your thoughts on some of the action that's happened so far in 2022 and who you think's done a pretty good job coaching their teams thus far in the season that we've been watching.
Well, you can start with Sonny, with what he's done at TCU, and Sonny and I had 6 years together, where he was the head coach and I was the offensive coordinator, 3 at Louisiana Tech and 3 at Cal. But we actually started together in 1997 back at Kentucky when he was a young grad assistant and I was an assistant coach on Hal Mummy's staff. And so I've known Sonny for a long time. This is it's what I call the perfect marriage. I think that on my podcast a day or two ago, I talked about, or maybe I tweeted it, I think maybe a couple of days ago. I think that there's jobs that coaches are made for. I think that a guy goes somewhere and he's a tremendous success. He leaves and goes somewhere else and he's a tremendous failure. And I think Sonny was made for the TCU job. I think that he's a Texas guy. And as you know, being from Texas, being a part of that culture is very important in being a coach, a college coach in the state of Texas. Understanding how important high school football coaches are, understanding how not only how important they are, but how good they are. How good, Sonny realizes and understands that you can have every big name on the list that you want to have. It doesn't mean anything in Texas. What means something in Texas is that, are you from there? Have you come up through the ranks? Have you proven yourself? And it doesn't matter if you're a high school coach, a college coach, an NFL coach. It doesn't make any difference. And Sonny understands that. So he understands that culture. TCU was a job that he always knew was a great job. And obviously, Gary Patterson did a phenomenal job. It's just like everybody, the longer you stay somewhere, the less support you have, the more the challenging it becomes. Everybody wants a fresh face. And so it was just simple that it was probably time for a change. Sonny had beaten them a couple of years at SMU, knew that that was a job that if he could get that job, it gave him an opportunity for a national championship because of the culture that was already there and already having good players. And in today's world, you better have an NIL structure. You better have a coaching staff structure to where every single advantage that you can gain is done through the administration and through the boosters, et cetera. And that's the way that it was set up at TCU. They had good players. They already had good players. Then they filled in some spots. He built a coaching staff that was what he wanted. He didn't look and go, okay, I need to sign a big name defensive coordinator because I'm got this great job and I need a big name deal. No, he looked out and said, let me find the guy that fits this place, that is a damn good coach, that can come in here and that can immediately hit the ground running and can keep it going. And that's what he did. He just hired a coaching staff that fit what he wanted. He hired Mark Tommerdahl, who's been well known forever in special teams. And this is the thing I said on my podcast today, was that what they did at the end of the game to win that game, I watched that for 6 years. Some of these so-called experts say, well, I wonder if they really did practice that every Thursday. Trust me, every single Thursday, they did what they called Tora, 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 which
Yeah.
was, if you go back to World War II, and Pearl Harbor was a lightning attack that the Japanese did on the American troops. And they used that word, lightning attack, 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 attack. Got to get on the field. There's no timeouts left. I saw it every Thursday for 6 years. It came to
Yeah.
fruition, and Sonny has always been a huge special teams advocate, and it worked to perfection because they work it. Some guys give lip service to it, but Sonny had always done that, and Mark Tomerdahl, has been well known forever as one of the best special team coaches in football. So it worked because they worked it. And so, that would be the first job in football right now that I would say you have to say these guys have done as good a job as anybody in football.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yesterday, as you just mentioned, was a perfect example of it, because sometimes, you get in the heat of the moment and those end of game clock running out of timeout situations come up, and it can spell disaster if you don't have your guys prepared. And obviously, Coach Dykes did, and that's why they were able to win. And they've won several close games this year. And that's the same thing that we were just talking to Demetrius about with the Buckeyes. It hasn't all been 50-point blowouts. There's been some close games, and that's where I think coaching really comes into play, is in some of those close games. And I wanted to talk a little bit about down the road from TCU over in College Station, and kind of what's happened with A&M. I mean, this is a team that obviously has talent. They have some good coaches that have done good jobs in the past, but this year has kind of been a mess, just being blunt about it. What are your thoughts on what's gone down in College Station, and why Texas A&M has struggled this season with all the talent they have?
Well, I think to me, it's pretty simple. I think they're horrendous on offense because of coaching. It's that the head coach needs to fire the offensive coordinator. And by the way, he is the offensive coordinator. So he needs to fire him. And I'm not saying the guy that has the title of offensive coordinator. I'm saying the one that actually is the offensive coordinator. He needs to fire himself. It's an easy deal. He doesn't have to walk very far to do it. You walk, you look in the mirror and you go, you know what? I've had some good years. There's a lot of things in this game that have changed dramatically. I haven't changed with them. I got the best players in football. We've out-recruited everybody. We've got everybody here that we need except for one thing. We don't have a good offensive coordinator, and that's me. I need to fire myself, and I need to hire somebody. Right now, I could give him 100 names in the state of Texas, high school football coaches that he could hire tomorrow that would go and win a national championship for him. He won't do that because it's ego. There's ego involved. It's going to have to be some big name guy, somebody that's going to come in. It's going to be, somebody that I'm going to tell him what to do and how to do it and all that. That ain't what he needs. You look at the state of Texas again. Like I said, there's 100 high school coaches right now he could hire tomorrow, and they would have a national championship blueprint if he would just shut up, walk away from them, let them do their job. I don't see that happening. And it's not to say that, that he hasn't been a successful coach, because he has. But we all go through these cycles. You go through a cycle. There's only two kinds of coaches: those that have been fired, those that will be fired. That's it. Yeah. So you got to look in the mirror sometimes and go, I'm the problem. Mm-hmm. There ain't no problem except me. I got to fix it. And that's an easy fix for them if he would allow himself to do it. So, obviously the boosters have laid out the money. They've given him everything he wants, everything he needs. I watch a guy coach during a game, and here's what I hate about the way that he coaches. Watch every single bad play on offense. It ain't never him. It's always the quarterback. They're coming off the field. He's berating them in front of everybody. And the only reason you do that is to let everybody know that it's not your fault. You're berating that quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. It's their fault. It's not my fault. When in reality, it is his fault. It can't be all the guys that have been before him. And, again, when you can go to Tuscaloosa and play Alabama, neck and neck, you got players. they're everywhere, but they got problems. You played the worst team in the world yesterday, and you struggled to score 20 points at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you got problems, and more than likely he's lost his football team. And, so that's always a problem too. So obviously, like I said, Jimbo Fisher has been a great football coach at times in his career. There's no doubt about it. The proof is in the printout, but also the proof is in the printout right now that he doesn't have to go very far to see the problem. He just got to look up and look in the mirror, have an honest evaluation, and say, I got to fix this. It's me. I'm the problem. I got to fix it.
Coach Franklin, honestly, I'm a huge fan of yours. And I've always wanted to know, like, you talk about the innovation of, like, what, Coach Fisher has not done. He's really running the same dang offense he ran way back when he was at LSU. But I look at you and in your coaching, what was your influences when you started creating the system, and who are those influences that made you look at it and just turn the dial a little bit to tweak it to, change your thought process to evolve over time as the game has evolved?
Well, I go back to a couple of things that happened in my career. The biggest thing that happened to me to help me as a football coach was coaching at Mayfield High School in Mayfield, Kentucky from 1993 to 95. I didn't know how to win. I knew how to coach, but I didn't know how to win. I didn't know how to be a championship football coach. I went to Mayfield High School in Mayfield, Kentucky in 1993. I'd already been a head coach. I was the youngest head coach in the state of Kentucky at one time. I'd been a head coach at a couple of schools. I'd never won big. I go to Mayfield because I need a job. I've been an entrepreneur. I got my ass kicked. I needed a job. I had 3 small children. I needed to win. I needed to get a paycheck. So I went there, I shut up, and I listened, and I watched, learn how to play defense, learn how to run the football. Well, then a couple of years later, by me working my ass off to help Hal Mumme get the job at Kentucky, which is a whole other story, because I didn't deserve to be at Kentucky. I didn't deserve to be an SEC football coach, but I pulled off a miracle by helping Hal. I didn't get Hal the job. I helped Hal. Hal had already done all kinds of amazing things, but there's no way in the world he gets the job without me coming up with some crazy ass plan. He gets the job, I get hired. So now I learn how to do the quote air raid stuff. But in those days, Hal would line up in a 2-back set, get under the center, and run the football. He wouldn't do that today, because I think just like Mike Leach over the years, they got to listening to all the stuff about how wonderful they were and throw it every play and all that stuff, and then it becomes a pride thing. But in those days, I learned how to practice football through Hal Mumme. So then I'm out of football for 5 years. Nobody will hire me. So I start this deal to where that I began to teach high schools. And I say, okay, what if you took Hal Mumme's system, and then what if you added tempo? And the tempo idea came from this. I watched, of all things, Alabama in the Orange Bowl against Michigan line up, no huddle, fast, and give the ball to Sean Alexander 6 or 7 or 8 times in a row.
I remember that game well.
How could that be? What would happen if we did that with Hal's system? So I actually tried to get Hal to do it. We did it in the spring a little bit, and he just wasn't his thing, didn't want to do it. So we didn't do it. So once I didn't have a job, I said, I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to teach all these high schools how to do it. So all of a sudden, I got high schools throughout the country that are playing fast before it's cool, before everybody even knows what it is, and they're kicking ass and taking names. In the state of Texas, I got some guys by the name of, Aaron Beck and Randy Jackson and Mike Fuller. And I got all these guys that go, holy shit, we can go out and we can steal a bunch of games and win a bunch. And it changed their careers. And those guys started kicking ass and taking names. And eventually I get a job in college again at Troy. So we play fast football and we're able to steal 2 championships. And then Auburn hires me and goes, hey, we want to do this cool stuff. And then when I got there, I was like, well, maybe not really. It ain't working exactly the way. And so it was the worst marriage in the history of football. And so at 5-2, I get fired, which is hard to do. It's hard to get fired at 5-2, but I managed to be a big enough horse's ass to get fired at 5-2. If you ever lose to Vanderbilt and you're in the SEC, somebody's getting fired. So Florida, somebody's getting fired. 2 weeks ago, somebody's getting fired because that's what happens when you lose to Vanderbilt in the SEC. So I got fired, and then I was able to go on to Middle Tennessee, win 10 games, and then hook up with Sonny. We're able to win the WAC, average 52 points a game, get the job at Cal, average almost 40 points a game the last 2 years. And then I left and go back to Middle because my mom is dying. I need to be a better son. And I go back where I'm closer to home and have no regrets for that because I was able to spend time with my mom. So long story short, for the first time ever in football history, all information began to flow up, not down. It used to go NFL to college, college to high school. Not anymore. All information flows up. NFL does not want to do it. Oh, we're not doing that RPO stuff. We're not going to do it. And so the RPO deal is a whole other story because basically I used to hire Dana every year to come to my seminars. Dana was always single. He wanted to have fun. Wherever I did a seminar, Dana would come. So Dana came and I would get some little tidbit of information. Dana's at Oklahoma State. It's 2011. I'm listening to him and he goes, hey, we getting this little deal here. We call it the diamond. We got 3 backs in the backfield. We got a couple of receivers out here. And he goes, we just run the ball. And then I have those guys run routes and I just let the quarterback throw it if he wants to. And I said to myself, that's the most genius thing I've ever heard in my life. So I go back to Sonny and I go, Sonny, let's try this thing out, but let's do it for everything, not just in this diamond formation. Let's do it with every single thing we got. And Sonny goes, cool, let's try it. That's where the RPO deal goes from. It gets us the Cal job because we average 50 points a game. The next year, we score 57 against Texas A&M, and 3 SEC opponents in a row score 20. Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman. We lose 59-57. That gets us the Cal job. And then the rest is history for the whole world because the RPO deal goes through the roof. I used to have my clients, I would say, I'm going to make you guys sign a contract that you don't teach people how to do this because I think we get 5 years of this. And 5 years of this may get us all millionaires, Well, Sonny's a millionaire. I'm not. But the cool thing is that it really did dramatically change football. Coaches throughout the country began to do it. They began to develop the RPO stuff. And, Art Briles did a hell of a job with it at Baylor. And he was doing some stuff that I learned watching his deal, and it made me get better doing the RPO deal. And so today, the NFL finally goes, this RPO stuff, we probably better start doing it. And now the NFL plays the best players at quarterback. They like to take guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen, and they're letting guys play football instead of going, oh no, we're going to take Johnny Manziel. We're going to put him under the center, make him do a 9-step drop. And I'm like, are you guys stupid? Yes, you are. The answer is yes, you are.
It's so true, man. Yeah, I think the Eagles are having some success with it, and the Ravens.
It's amazing how all of a sudden, and not only that, just look at what the Bears did the last few weeks. They finally go, hey, let's let this guy play ball.
Yeah,
let's actually devise the offense around him than around us. And then in the NFL now, like you said, the Eagles finally did it, and it's like all of a sudden we're smart.
Yeah.
You look at the quarterbacks, like I look at 3 quarterbacks you've had throughout your career who are really pretty different. I mean, between Dasher, Goff, and Brent Stockstill. What was your thought process? Like, you already know your system. Do you set it up to make them the best they are? Or are you trying to implement them more into what your thought process is? Because they're, radically different in style and substance.
Well, that's a great question because I had Dwight Dasher, Omar Hagabook, and maybe the best of all of them, a kid by the name of Asher O'Hara, which nobody hardly remembers. Go to Sacramento State. They're 11-0 right now. Watch what that kid has done. He was an all-conference guy at Middle that followed Brent Stockstill. People just don't remember him because they don't want to. Kid's a phenomenal player. You devise the offense. I always start at the same, which is, a base style, is that let's go in and teach our base offense. Then I see what the quarterback can do. And then instead of like a dumbass Tony that would have been 20 years ago, 15 years ago, me going, oh, no, you got to do it my way. That's not the way you do it. It's me figuring out what they can do, what they're good at, and then devising an offense around them. And so that's what, you got Dwight Dasher. You say, who's the best quarterback in Middle Tennessee history? Everybody would say Brent Stockstill. He was a good player. But Dwight Dasher won 10 games.
Yeah.
Because he ran for 1,100 yards and threw for 2,800. It's a lot easier to call plays when a guy can do that. Jared Goff's the first pick in the draft, takes the Rams to the Super Bowl. He's an all-pro quarterback. He is a phenomenal player. He's a bad, tough man, okay? He's different than Asher O'Hara. Mm-hmm. So you have to run an offense that reflects who they are, not who you are. And that's the biggest mistake, I think, in coaches. And look, I've been the biggest dumbass in the world in coaching. Everybody that coaches for a long period of time will eventually be a moron, because you're going to go through cycles where you've got players that fit, chemistry that works, it all comes together, and you score 40 points a game and you look smart. Then all of a sudden you're going to hit a deal that it doesn't fit, and you're trying to figure it out. The chemistry breaks, and then you got issues and you got problems, and especially today, college football, everybody goes, you look at Tennessee last night and go, how does that happen? How does Tennessee go and lose at South Carolina the way they lost? How does Lane Kiffin go to Arkansas and lose? It's simple. It's not hard. You guys said it before I came on the show. These are college kids.
Yeah.
A girlfriend broke up with them and broke their heart. Okay. They played at home and lose a close game to Alabama that they should have won. Now they got to go on the road in the SEC and listen to a roaring crowd. They ain't real fired up about it. Okay. Yeah. Tennessee, same thing. They got to go on the road. South Carolina is one of the best atmospheres in all of football.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Bryce Williams.
I had my pick of the year last night. You know who it was? Middle Tennessee was a home underdog to Florida Atlantic.
Wow.
There's no way in the world Florida Atlantic wants to go there.
Yeah.
Because why? It's 30 degrees. It's cold. There's 50 people at the game. They listed at 9,000. There's about 50 people there. They're going to show up, warm up, and go, hell with this. I don't want to be here. And Middle's going to kick their butt, which they did. All those things factor into college football that people don't understand. So when you look at these dramatic, like, holy God, what happened in this game? Well, Johnny's girlfriend broke up with him. So-and-so has got a test tomorrow. Like if you're coaching at Cal and Stanford and Northwestern, and all of a sudden you've got midterms, it's a whole other animal. It's not like coaching at some of the other schools I've coached where they go, what's a midterm? If you're coaching at Cal, you're coaching at Stanford, you're coaching at Northwestern, those kids have got an exam that they got to study for 20 hours that week for in order to make it. And guess what? They're going to own the football team someday instead of play for it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. And I want to go back to a team we just talked about, or you just talked about and mentioned there, Tennessee. I mean, obviously yesterday didn't go well as planned, obviously. But he's done, I think Coach Heupel's done a really good job this year and, exceeded expectations in my opinion. And I just want to get your thoughts on, what's going on there. I mean, they had a good year last year. They believe he won 8 games coming off a 3-win season the year before in the Pruitt disaster. Just want to get your thoughts on what Coach Heupel's done and what you think led to the success that they had this season prior, obviously prior to last night?
Right. Well, first of all, he's a really good football coach. And from what, I don't know him, I've never met him, but from what people in the profession say, he's a really good human being. That matters these days, because here's what happens now. A couple of things. In the world of immediate transfer, in the world of NIL, coaches have to be better humans.
Yeah.
In the old days, you could be the biggest ass in the world. In the new days, if you're that, you better be paying me a ton of money if I'm a good player. A ton of money, and I still might go somewhere else. So you got a guy that's a good guy, that's a good football coach. They get a few fixes in the transfer portal. They get some guys that come in that are really good players that fit what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Here's the next thing. You play incredibly fast, which will give you some blowouts. Now, let's get to the final part. Is he going to win a championship there? Because everybody thought this year it could happen because they were sitting there perfectly. In my belief, my experience, no one ever wins a championship, ever, unless you're good on defense. I don't care if you score 80 points a game. You're going to have a game where it just doesn't click. I don't care if you throw it 50 times a game, you throw for 12,000 yards. You're going to have a game where the ball's tipped.
Yeah.
And it's intercepted 3 times. You're going to have a game where you turn it over. You will never win a championship until you're good on defense. You don't have to be great, but you have to be at least average, because you got to mix it. That's the deal. You get back to Sonny at TCU this year.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Texas and they have an off night.
Yeah.
They have an off night on offense.
They sure did.
Guess what? The defense lights them up.
Yeah.
They played great.
That has to mesh on those nights. On those nights that you're not clicking at 100 miles an hour and you're not scoring 40, the defense has to play great that night. So I'll give you a classic example. In 2011, we win the WAC at Louisiana Tech. Everybody thinks, well, it was because you were great on offense. No, we weren't. We were average to a little above average. As the season went on, we got better because we really got good at RPOs as the season went on. But 2 things happened. We were great on special teams. We played really good defense as we got into conference play, and we didn't turn the ball over. 7 weeks in a row, we don't turn the ball over. So we win the championship. Guess what? The next year, we're 9-1. The Orange Bowl is at La Tech. Our quarterback throws 444 balls in a row without an interception, Kobe Cameron. An NCAA record that I do not believe will ever get broken. It's the most magical experience ever. And then all of a sudden, we got a home game against Utah State, who wins 11 that year. The next week, we play San Jose State, who also wins 11. They're also in the WAC. We turn the ball over 5 times. We don't win the WAC. With the greatest offense, one of the best offenses ever in football. You know why? Because on that year, we lose a couple of players and we're not as good on defense. We win when you are good on defense. You don't win championships unless you're good on defense.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you don't have a game where you play bad. You can have a bad game, especially in today's world of college football. But you have to be at least average on defense to win a championship, and Tennessee's not average.
Yeah.
We talked about innovation before. Who are those innovators that you see out there that you're impressed by of how they're evolving the game? Like, 2 people that came in my mind was, we talked about one of these guys going into the year is the OC at Texas Tech and Zach Keightley. And then I look at Willie Korn over at Coastal Carolina. But just from your perspective, who out there intrigues you from your thought process of what they're doing and how they're evolving the game?
Yeah. This is going to be a name that none of you guys will probably know, but everybody else in the world won't. Troy Taylor, the head coach at Sacramento State. Let me tell you something. If I was a head coach, somebody screwed up and hired me as a head coach, first thing I would do, I would get in a plane. I would fly to Sacramento. I would pay him whatever I could for him to teach me how to be a great head coach. And here's why. Number one, I knew Troy. Troy, for those of you that don't know, Troy was a great quarterback at Cal. Jared Goff broke most of, everybody thinks Aaron Rodgers had all the records. No, Troy Taylor did. Jared Goff broke Troy's records. Troy just happened to be a high school coach down the road at Folsom High School around Sacramento.
Yeah.
I went and watched them practice. I met with Troy. I was walked away. I came back and told our staff, you guys want to learn how to coach? You better go watch these guys because they practice better. They're better coach than any team I've ever seen. He then gets the offensive coordinator job at Eastern Washington, goes and averages like 45, 48 points a game for a couple of years. Goes to Utah as the OC there for a couple of years. They went 8, 9, 10 games, but he's not completely being able to do everything that he needed to do. So he takes the head job at Sac State. They've never won at Sac State.
Yeah.
Look at his record for 3 years now. They haven't lost a conference game in the toughest FCS conference in football. They've not lost a road game in 2 years. And he's playing 2 quarterbacks. He's playing my former quarterback and another guy, rolls them in and out of the game like you cannot imagine what his brain is and how he's thinking. No idea. But here's the biggest thing he's done. They have the best camaraderie. Those 2 quarterbacks love each other. Hey, figure out how to do that in today's time.
Yeah.
Ain't easy. That ain't easy.
It's impossible. So that would be the innovator that right now, if I had to go choose somebody to learn from, that would be the one guy that I would choose. I mean, anybody can look at what Lincoln Riley's done and say, how does he do it? He's a phenomenal play caller.
Yeah,
he's a great quarterback coach. Because here's the thing, you look at his quarterbacks that he's coached, they've been top draft picks and gone to the NFL and all that stuff. But he is just a great play caller and a great quarterback coach. But again, they've struggled to play good defense, so it's hard for him to win a national championship. But hell, he's one of the best coaches in all of football. And then I've always admired Chris Hatcher, who's the head coach at Samford. When I was at Kentucky, this young whippersnapper named Chris Hatcher walked in the door and acted like he invented football. And he taught me the offense. Hal Mumme didn't teach me anything because in those days there was no playbook. There was nothing. Hatcher taught me the offense when he and I took a little trip and I went to Missoula, Montana and out to Utah, and he wrote it up on napkins on an airplane and drinking beer. He and I snow skiing and doing the normal things back in those days to learn how to coach football. But Chris last night finished undefeated, had a phenomenal year at Samford, undefeated in FCS play. The only game they lost was Georgia. He's probably going to be one of the top seeds in the playoffs. And he's always been just a really good football coach. And he's like all of us. He's been fired. He's looked like an idiot, but he's a really good head football coach and all that. So those are guys that I would go study and learn from.
Yeah, those are all good ones.
That's awesome.
You mentioned the MTSU game yesterday. I get to brag on one of my boys here. The quarterback for MTSU, Chase Cunningham. He went to my high school here, Knoxville Catholic, and man, I'm impressed with that kid. He waited his turn.
Let me tell you. Yeah, I can tell you stories about Chase because Chase, I remember them showing me the film and saying, hey, do you care if this kid walks on? I said, shit, care. This guy's better than guys we're recruiting. And, his high school coach was the same coach that coached Brent Stockstill. And so
Steve Matthews.
Exactly. And he's a phenomenal coach and he had wonderful things to say. And Chase was competing with Asher all the time. And I played, sometimes there were games where Chase came in and took over for Asher and all that stuff. And Chase was a great kid. I went to Rick somewhere along the way and said, look, instead of me going out and recruiting somebody else, this kid deserves a scholarship. Let's put him on. I don't need to go get another guy. Let's have this guy. And we put him on scholarship. And he is a really good football player. And I'm tickled to death to see his success. And I'm not surprised at all. He had a better arm than most everybody I ever coached in football. And the thing that surprises people is that he's actually fast. He can run. And with a torn ACL coming back from that after last season, I'm tickled to death for his success. But you're right. He's a really good player. and just a really good human being.
Yeah, he came in. He was just a little kid, came in as a sophomore and took over when the starter went down for our high school and led us to the state championship. And the rest is history. But I really, really respect that young man because he's worked really hard. And just my last question for you, Coach, because I don't want to take up any more of your time here. I know you're a busy man, but I just want to get your thoughts on what's happened at Georgia. Coach Smart took over. And he's really, kind of transformed that program. And, here we are. They're looking to potentially, follow up a national championship with another one. And I just want to get your thoughts on what's happened there. I mean, Coach Rick was close for a long time and had some really good teams and good seasons, but could never get over the hump. What do you think's happened at Georgia to allow them to get all the way to title land and stay there?
Right. Well, there's a couple of things that stand out. Number one, he learned how to recruit from Nick Saban. Recruiting in the SEC is different, and I could go in depth, but I'm not going to. Everybody can use their imagination. If you're going to be in the SEC, you better know how to recruit SEC, not recruit Big 12, not recruit Pac-12. You got to know how to recruit the SEC. For those insiders out there, they know what I'm talking about. So he always knew how to do that. Now that you have the NIL, it will continue in a different way. He is relentless in recruiting because Nick Saban was. He learned from the best. So he learned how to do that. But still, they couldn't win a championship until he did one thing. And I was singing by myself for a long time. Stetson Bennett had one offer coming out of high school, one Division I offer by some dumbass named Tony Franklin at Middle Tennessee.
That's where I was going with this, Coach.
I went to watch Stetson. I went to watch him practice. I begged him. I wanted him. I knew he was special. He comes on a visit with his dad. He left at halftime. Ain't no way in hell he was going to Middle Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
The reason was he wanted big-time football. And not, Middle beat Miami. When I was there, we beat Missouri, we beat Syracuse. It's not that it's not good football, but the atmosphere is nothing like big-time football. I mean, we played UAB for a championship. We won the East Division. UAB won the West. They would say there was 10,000 people there. There was probably 2,000 people there. So when you want that, when you really want that big time deal, he was willing to walk on at Georgia. And here's the thing. The whispers were coming out of there forever. Coach Hatcher and I at Stanford used to talk about it because he and I were fighting when Stetson was in JUCO to get him back. And Hatcher and I were like, we both were like, this dude, man, I hope he goes there and screws up so nobody will take him. So he goes there, he doesn't even have a great year there at the JUCO. Throws a bunch of interceptions, throws a bunch of touchdowns. But he goes back to Georgia. Every player on that team knew he was the best player. Everybody knew. All the whispers coming out of there were, he's the best. But he wasn't a five-star recruit. He wasn't the big-time recruit. So they let that pressure, which is hard to imagine, that at a school like that, with the reputations those coaches have, they didn't play him. The other kid had to get hurt.
JT Daniels.
And then he played. And then it was like, okay, he's going to screw it up, and then we'll put the other kid back in. No. Let me tell you about Stetson Bennett, what he's got. And try to think of the right way to say this. He's got a big set of things that you need to be great. Okay?
Yeah.
He ain't afraid. He'll throw an interception. It don't bother him one bit. Kirby will chew his ass out royally because he made a throw that he shouldn't have made. And it don't bother him a bit. All great quarterbacks are the same. They learn, but they're like, you know what? I'll make the same throw and I'll make it work the next time. I'll win you a championship, buddy. I ain't listening to nobody. I'll learn. Don't get me wrong. I'll learn from coaching. But they had enough guts to stay with the kid And that's why they won a national championship. And if they win one this year, it'll be the same thing. He ain't afraid to make mistakes, and he's really good. He's really good. Everybody says, well, he doesn't have the arm to do this. He doesn't have – I would like to punch some of those announcers that think they're experts because they're literally so stupid. Oh, he doesn't have the arm that the other kid had. He's not a 5-star. We knew no, you didn't. You just won't admit it. He's an NFL quarterback because he can make plays. He is a good football player that has a really good arm. And, oh, by the way, he's fast.
Oh, yeah.
He's very elusive. He keeps plays alive. He's just good. He's just a winner and good.
He's a winner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's won several of these games this year. The Missouri game is one that sticks out to me. I mean, they were destined to lose that game until he just started making plays himself. And I'm done doubting that kid. I have to admit, I didn't always believe he could take him to the pinnacle. But I'm done doubting that young man because of the things he's done. I mean, he's unbelievable to watch, and he'll do whatever it takes to win the damn football game is what my opinion is.
Well, that's to me, when I go back and I look at great quarterbacks, is that everybody in college wants to say, well, he's not an NFL prospect, so he's not. I could care less if he's an NFL prospect. Who cares? I want to know, can he win? Can he find a way to make plays? And what he does is he makes plays. He's got good players around him. Yeah. He understands that. And then obviously, the easy thing is Georgia's defense they're freaks. I mean, they're freaks. Nobody else has defensive players the way that they do. And so it allows you to make a mistake. But like you said, without him, they wouldn't have won a championship last year. And the only reason that they've got a shot this year, it's not the only reason, but he is, in my opinion, if he's not in New York for the Heisman deal, then again, the sports writers don't know what they're doing.
I agree.
Yeah, agreed.
Unbelievable. Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
We enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully we can have you in again. And we encourage everybody that's listening today to go and check out Coach Franklin's podcast. We'll post all the links to it on our site. But, Coach, thank you so much for taking some time on your Sunday morning to join us today. Yeah, thank you, guys, and I appreciate what you all do. Y'all are fun. Thanks. All right, thank you, Coach. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again real soon.